What's going on YouTube? Nick here. Hopefully I don't sound too bad. I'm getting over a sinus cold. I feel horrible. I sound horrible. My nose is all stuffy, full of mucus. I'm just blowing mucus out left and right, green boogies here and there. But today I had a video I wanted to go over. I've had it in the pipes for a while now. I've just been busy with school and I procrastinate a lot, so I put it off because I'm just lazy. And uh, yeah. But anywho, I wanted to talk about this topic I've had, like I said, for a while on video game organizations and how they have declined, not in terms of popularity. I think a lot of video game organizations are still very popular today, like TSM, 100 Thieves, orgs like that, FaZe Clan. Even though I think FaZe Clan is less of a gaming organization now, more of like a entertainment organization. Because I think people more or less watch them for their content creator side, like Playboy Maxi and Lacey and all those guys and stuff, more than I think now they watch them for their gaming side. Because I know they still have teams, I think, in like CS:GO and Valorant and things like that, Overwatch, I think. But for the most part, actually, yeah. But for the most part, I don't think they're really an esports org anymore. I think they're more of like a content org. Uh, but yeah, anyways, I wanted to go over my ideas. I think of why esports as a whole has kind of fallen from the wayside in terms of a business, right? Uh, in my opinion, I think esport orgs, are a relatively. Oh, shoot, I'll call back in a minute. Esports orgs and as a whole are like very. Um, they're very grassroots. They started very like small and eventually they got really big over time. However, I think they got too big too quickly, in my opinion, and that's why they kind of like gone back, uh, and why a lot of esports organizations as a whole have kind of like cut a lot of teams and a lot of their teams. I know a couple years back, what kind of started this whole video for me was there was like a mass layoff. I tried to find all the tweets that came out with and everything. I just couldn't because I wanted to put them in the video, but I couldn't. But it was like a bunch of tweets that orgs are just like putting out every day of like teams cutting or organizations cutting teams and letting all these people go like in mass exodus. Like 50% of this team got laid off, 50% of that team, 60, 70 here and there, just because they realized that they didn't need all these people for a gaming organization. And not to say that they're not important. I'm sure they were. It's just I think they got too big too quickly. And there's three things I wanted to go over that I think are the main reason for that. Oh shoot, hold on. I gotta. There we go. Okay, so the three things I think that really hurts esports organizations as a whole, kind of like for their downfall, as far as more as a business standpoint, in my opinion, is profit, cost of teams, and right owners. Right, I think those three things are probably the key things I think for esport organizations as a whole to kind of like succeed or fail, because they're a little different than like traditional uh, sports organizations, in that they make money differently than your traditional sports organizations. And I'll get into the second, right? But we'll start off with profit first. I also have like a whole script I was gonna go over and everything, but I think I'm just gonna like skip it for now. Um, but yeah, but profit, cost of teams, and right owners, in my opinion. Also, I have like a whole research paper I did for this for the video. I'll have it linked as well, like in the details if you guys want to look at my research, all the links I have in there as well, for the information I used. But excuse me. But yeah, we'll start with first for profit. In my opinion, uh, for profit, there are three things that make a business what it is. Right? You have public, nonprofit, and commercial businesses, and as you can see, they're all like different, and you kind of understand what they are from. But you know what a nonprofit is. You guys know what a commercial is for to make money, and you know what a public one is, like a government agencies, things like that. Uh, like the road agencies that like make sure our roads are like nice and kept up. There's no potholes, things like that. Nonprofits like my girlfriend works for one. It's a Christian based one. And they help people out. And then there's commercial ones, which is like what esports are. Esport organizations are for profit sectors to make money. However, I think they kind of fall into like a 50-50 where they're a profit and they're also an entertainment organization. Kind of the same way with like I think you can make that case. Like there's certain industries like wrestling, esports, sports organizations. I think they fall like into a 50-50 category where they're entertainment based and profit based. Because yes, on one side they're there to make money, of course, and on the other side they're also there to entertain people, which I think is what a lot of sports and wrestling entertainment companies do. In that they kind of fall like into two different areas. Um, but yeah, I think those are the two main things. And I want to show. I probably have to go and change my screen actually here to do this. uh, okay, there. So I want to move over to. Okay, so this is the one of the first things I want to show. So that's kind of like to differentiate between the difference between like regular sports organizations and esports organizations, how in terms they make money, right? So this is from a website called Sportico, where they break down like the revenue breakdown for all the major U.S. sports leagues. And here you can see you have the NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, MLS, and kind of how they where they make the bulk of their money, right? So national revenue is 66% for the NFL, NBA is 41, but then for like smaller markets, right? So like if you live in America, you know like MLB, they're popular, right? Baseball is huge. And NHL, you know, they're big too. MLS are big, but in terms of like American sports, they're kind of smaller. I know MLB is popular, right? But as far as like NBA, NFL, I think they're below those two, of course, which is why like you can see like the national revenue is bigger for NFL and NBA, which is why like for MLB and NHL, they're just 26 and 19. And when you look at those, a lot of those for the national revenue are streaming and TV deals because those make a big chunk of money for a lot of organizations, organizations in particular, is streaming and TV deals, right? To broadcast them. I know I don't have the link on me right now, but I know my dad's a Big Ten fan. He watches Indiana basketball, Indiana football, and all that. I know the Big Ten a couple months back signed a big exclusive deal. I think it was with Peacock. I could be wrong. To have all their games shown on there, at least some of their games shown on Peacock, and it was a big streaming contract in the billions, right? So that's how a lot of teams nowadays make a lot of their money is by streaming and TV deals, getting their videos or getting the games broadcasted out there. And then you also have like seating and suites that makes up like 17 for NFL, NBA, 26, 31, 44, and 39 for the MLB, NHL, and MLS. Local media has to do with like local TV deals too. Like I think Houston, for example. I live in Texas, and Houston's kind of the closest city to me. You can kind of get like local television. You can get like their like some of like the Houston games on there, and then concessions and parking 6, 8, 10, 12, and 18. Those are pretty small for them as well. Like I said, the big majority of money for at least for traditional sports organizations have to do with like the TV and streaming, and then for other ones like the smaller market organizations like MLB, NHL, MLS, all of those have to do mostly with their seating and seats, because like NHL is popular, right? But not as popular as like the NFL and NBA. So a lot of theirs does come from like getting people into the games and things like that. And I do like watching the NHL, or not watching, but going to the game. My brother's an NHL fan. He likes watching their games. But I like going with them to the games. If we ever get a chance, we usually go. MLS, same thing. They're not as popular. Soccer isn't as popular in general in the States. I think people know that. It's bigger, obviously, everywhere else in the world. But not so much in America. And of course, most of their money does come from getting people into the seats and going like to their concession stands and spending money there, right? But I wanted to show a comparison. This is how a majority of traditional esports organizations, I'm sorry, traditional sports organizations make their money. And then I want to move over to this one. So this is this is a breakdown from Mercer Capital. And like I said, I'll have all of these. I have a paper I wrote. I had an intro too planned out. I didn't really feel like doing it, but I have an intro planned out there. And I said I'll have all this linked in there that you guys can look at and go through and just see what I looked up and everything that I had referenced. But this is a breakdown. Now this is from 2017. However, I do think it still holds value today, as far as how esports make money. So 74% of esports organizations probably make money through sponsorship and advertising, which I think is true, right? So think of it like this, for example. So NFL, NBA, NHL, all of them can make money through jerseys, tickets, like especially jersey sales. Like so, like if you have like an NBA jersey or something like that, they can make money through that. However, think of it like this: for like Call of Duty, for example, um, a let's say like 100 Thieves, for example, they can't make like an exclusive Call of Duty skin and sell it and make money in Call of Duty, right? They don't have that power. They don't have that control. But Call of Duty, however, they can make a bunch of skins and put them like for $10, right? Everyone knows I used to buy a lot of skins for Call of Duty. I used to play a lot of Call of Duty. Call of Duty can put out all the skins they want. They keep all that money. But for the esports organizations that play in those gaming leagues for Call of Duty, Valorant, all of those, they don't get that money, right? Even though they play those games and they play tournaments for those games, they don't see the money that comes from those games from in-game purchases, right? All that in-game content from skins, all that stuff. So that's the thing is that's kind of like one area I think a lot of esports organizations struggle with is they don't get to see a lot of that in-game content revenue that a lot of traditional sports get, right? No one owns basketball. No one owns NHL. No one owns soccer, right? And for that reason, that you can get all these ticket jerseys and all this sports memorabilia that they can sell and make is because no one owns the identity of like basketball, or football, or soccer, or hockey, things like that, right? However, when it comes to video games, the publishers are the ones that make all of that money for the in-game video content they sell, for the skins, the maps, all of that, right? And that's kind of like one reason why a lot of esports organizations have to make their money elsewhere, which is why like sponsorship and revenue is a big thing, right? So like FaZe Clan had Nissan for a while. I remember seeing that. I want to say it was Team Liquid had Alienware, and that's where a lot of esports organizations as a whole get their bulk of their money is sponsorships. And then which is why it's 74%, and the prize pool is obviously 9% because you got to pay the players. They get a percentage of it, and then of course then the esports organization get a percent. I don't know much about esports betting and fantasy. I know a lot of that is kind of like iffy, because I know there was a video someone made a couple months back about how like there was like an underground esports betting where like people were like betting on like I think it was like casual play and competitive play, where they could bet on like let's say like a professional player was playing like esports player was playing League of Legends. They could go in there and like they could bet on them if they'd win this game. And I know for a while there was some problems with throwing where certain people would make new accounts, try and get into those games, and then throw those games so they could win the money and cause that player they bet on to lose, right? Because they bet on them to lose and all that stuff. So I'm iffy on esports betting as a whole and fantasy. I don't think that's really a thing. Amateur micro tournaments, obviously. So there's a lot of still like a small grassroots tournaments and teams that still go through and play tournaments. There's that. A lot of that's kind of getting smaller and smaller. Like Nintendo, for example, how bad they are with getting their stuff ready. Like Smash Brothers, for example. I know someone made a video. I watched like a Moist Critical video on it. I think he talked about like Panda. I know there was some talk about like I think Panda was one person or one company that was trying to like be like the sole. I'm making my wires crossed, but I know like there was like one sole company that wanted to do the tournaments, and that was kind of like pushing grassroots smaller tournaments out of the way because Nintendo's very like greedy and very strict when it comes to their IP and what they can do with it, right? So there still is a lot of like amateur and micro tournaments, but it's starting to get smaller and smaller. Ticket sales 5% of course because for esports organizations, you can go on Twitch, YouTube, and watch live games, right? You don't really have to pay for it. And typically, a lot of those ticket sales are like for small venues, and they're usually like in LA, I think, or like in New York or big cities. But they're usually small venues, so you don't get a lot of people in there unless you're like at League of Legends Worlds, and then you got like Madison Square Garden or some big arena sold out, and then you're seeing a lot of ticket sales there, of course. But for the most part, for ticket sales, that's pretty small too. Like merchandise tickets, like merchandise, for example, like I talked about how a lot of esports don't really see in-game content because they can't make money off of that because video game publishers own all of that content for like Call of Duty skins. They esports orgs can't make a Call of Duty skin and then sell that because that's not how it works, obviously. But they do. I know that esports organizations do sell a lot of merch. You'll see like jerseys, cups, things like that. Like they do sell a lot of merch, but a big majority of esports organizations do come from sponsorship and ads. However, I think it's getting kind of like smaller and smaller now for the most part. And that's just because esports as a whole isn't really uh, a really good it's not a good business model. It's not a good, you lose a lot of money in esports because there's a lot of money that you have to put into it, especially up front just to get it going. Teams, tournaments, you got to go to certain places to play games, things like that. It's a big money pit up front, and I got some clips. I'll show that here in a bit as well. But I also wanted to show this. So this is an article from Forbes. It's a little older. It's from 2022, so 3 years ago. It's already 2025. I keep thinking that's crazy. But so it's a breakdown of the top 10 most. What was it again? I forgot the title. Most valuable esports organizations, right? However, I think this is kind of an inflation, right? Because I feel like, so to me, in my opinion, right, I'm gonna say this. In my opinion, I think the reason why all these esports organizations got so inflated for their value so quickly was because of Fortnite. I know that may sound kind of weird, but or kind of stupid, but just let me explain for a second, right? When Fortnite came out, it was the biggest game there was. Everybody wanted to play it. All of the esports organizations got into it. FaZe, Optic, TSM, Team Liquid, all of these big teams got into it. And a lot of businesses saw an opportunity to make a lot of money off this, right? So they started pushing, especially like when streamers started getting big, like Ninja, Tfue, and then all of these big tournaments started happening, right? You saw a big push in companies really sponsoring these teams. Like I said, Nissan was big, Alienware, a lot of companies were pushing to get their brands out there to all these people to see because a lot of people were watching Fortnite as a whole and the game being played. And I think, it was just a big influx of money being put into these teams. And I think as a whole, that's why esports organizations kind of got like overinflated in value, and why a lot of them now, 3 years down the road, how a lot of them have cut ties, chopped a lot of their teams in half, and just got rid of a lot of teams because it's just not a viable option anymore. It's not a business to make money. It's a business to lose money. And I feel like one of my main points, like I said, as right owners, is that people that are getting into this business is for the love of video games and for their passion of video games and wanting to see this become bigger and bigger, right? So like I said, there's only two profitable esports teams right now, I think, still, and it's TSM and 100 Thieves. 100 Thieves because, as you know, 100 Thieves is owned by uh, Nadeshot, who was a professional Call of Duty player, who first started his company 100 Thieves as a clothing brand because he loves streetwear, he loves clothing, and that's what it was first. It was a clothing brand first, 100 Thieves, and then he started doing esports secondary to that. But that's 100 Thieves though got its start from clothing, and they still sell a lot of clothing. It's very good looking clothing. I there's some sweatshirts and stuff I want from them, and TSM too because they have a big fan base too. Um, and then everyone else down the row pretty much just loses money. That's how it is. It's a money pit. It sucks in all that money. It's like Kirby sucking in all the food it wants, sucking all the people, and it just never sees the light of day again. It's all that money gone. But I feel like these evaluations are just very inflated, right? So TSM 540 million, 100 Thieves 460 million, Team Liquid 440 million. FaZe Clan you could take off the board, right? If you keep up with gaming, FaZe Clan went like to bankrupt pretty much because they sold that org off to Suits because they didn't know what they were doing, and the Suits didn't know what they were doing, and that business went to zero because they were like, we can make a business off of it. This isn't a business to make money anymore, right? Esports organizations aren't a business to make money, plain and simple, right? So they're pretty much off the board. Cloud9 380, G2 340, Fnatic 260, Gen G 250, NRG 240, and T1 220. I feel like T1 though, I feel like they're probably worth a lot more, especially since they're big in League of Legends. That's my opinion. But yeah, I took a screenshot of this originally. The problem was that like this, even on here, is blurry and you can't really read it. So I was like, I'll just bring it up instead of the video. 1 second, please. Okay, sorry, my throat's all dry from being sick and everything. But yeah, I just think a lot of these numbers like are overinflated from like when Fortnite was big. A lot of big businesses came in and wanted to push their brands onto the masses that were watching that game, right? And this is how we get this big, overinflated values of these teams, right? Like I said, there's only two profitable teams in esports. It's TSM, 100 Thieves. And that is it. A lot of these teams, I feel like a lot of them in general aren't just viable. And also another thing is that for it's hard to make profit is like I said before is that you got to buy into a lot of these things. So This is a ESPN article called Riot releases details on NALCS franchising with a $10 million flat fee buy-in, right? And that's what it's very expensive, especially for League of Legends trying to get in these big tournaments. A $10 million flat fee buy-in, right? Where it is Bloomberg reports that franchises will cost a flat fee $10 million for existing NALCS organizations, with newcomers required to pay an extra $3 million to compensate teams not selected to the group for a group of 10 for the 2018 season, right? So just think about that, for example, is that to get into the NALCS, you got to pay $10 million plus another 13 as well. 13 million is how much you got to put up to even get into the league, and that's a lot of money, right? A lot in general to even get put in the league, and I think that's kind of like crazy in general. Um, but yeah, like I said, it's hard to make money, especially like in esports organizations, because it's just there's not really money to be made. If so, it's very little too, right? And I want to like my next point I want to get to now was cost of teams, right? So for cost of teams, it's creating and maintaining esports organizations, especially like contracts for players. Like there's some players that make like six figures, right? Especially in teams, you got to pay a lot of money for the teams, and then just maintaining them because a lot of them may live like in houses. Some of them have like chefs, things like that. It's just a lot of money to keep these teams up and going, especially if you have multiple teams. Like you have like Valorant, League of Legends, a lot of different teams across all different games. You have a lot, and that's just a really big part of it. Is just trying to keep these teams um, up and going. It's just like it's a money pit. You're just spending all this money, and then you may not see a return. Which is why to my next point is I want to get to is and my last point is right owners, right? Right owners I think are the main thing that you can get to when you want to see a professional esports organization thrive, right? So the right owners are strategic visionaries who set the tone for the company's direction, vision, culture, and values. Right owners can make or break a business. And that's true, right? I feel like right owners are going to be there to really make sure that the organization as a whole is going in the right direction, is sticking to the values they set, and it'll be there for the long run, right? And I want to show some clips first. I wanted to show them earlier. I kind of forgot. So this one is it's from a video called Trash, or a channel called Trash Taste Highlights, and how much Moist Critical is using to run his company.
What are they called? I don't know, esports agencies? What are they?
Esports organizations.
Yeah, organizations.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all venture capital, right? They get hundreds of millions of dollars because they just bleed money. Right?
It's just hemorrhaging money forever, basically.
Yeah.
I think, I don't remember exactly, but I think it's only 2 of them are profitable right now, and it's not from their esports. It's 100 Thieves because of all the merch they pump, and I believe the other one was TSM.
Yeah, it's TSM because they have like a massive fan base that goes all the way back.
Yeah.
And no other esports agency makes money?
No, they're all bleeding money. I'm sure there's some that maybe make profit here and there, but for the most part, you're bleeding money.
That sounds like a, what are they called?
Yeah, and that was just a video of Moist Critical talking about like how like esports is a money pit as whole, and that's true. And he owns his own team. He knows how much things cost. Moist Critical has, I know he has like I know him and Ludwig teamed up, and they have a Valorant team called Moist Moguls, and then Charlie himself has a team for Apex, which is like one of the best teams there is in the world, and Smash Brothers. He also has a pretty good Smash roster as well. But yeah, he knows how much it costs. It's expensive in general just to even get these esports organizations off the ground, and they're just a money pit. Like I said, they just suck in money. I think I couldn't find the clip either, but I know he has a clip of him saying that. I want to say it's either I think it's all his streaming money he makes up from streaming, from his YouTube and Twitch, all go for his esports. That pays for his esports, which is crazy to think because he probably averages like, I don't know, across the board when he streams, probably both on YouTube and Twitch, probably like 8,000 viewers concurrent maybe, which is a big number, right? And he's pulled in probably, I don't know. He talks about like his back end, how much he makes usually. So let's be generous, say like maybe like he'll make like $4,000 a stream, which is a lot, right? So times that by like 5, maybe like $20,000 he'll make a week if he streams, and all that will just go to esports. And I don't think that even $20,000 will be enough for for that month, you know, especially how much he pays his players and everything. I'm sure it's a good amount, and all the teams he has and everything, and the people working behind the scenes. But then the other one I wanted to show is from Disguised Toast, who also has an esports team, and he talks about how much money he spent pretty quickly as well.
I spent $1 million on my esports team and made a total of $0. Hi, I'm Disguised Toast, and today I'll be telling you all about how the esports industry is one of the worst things you can get into. 4 months ago, I announced that I created an esports team and that it would cost me $500,000 to run it for a year. Well, since then, I decided to also pick up a League of Legends team, and everyone told me that that's the second worst idea I've ever had. The worst one being starting an esports team.
Yeah, so I mean, I mean you can see, you can get the idea, right? Is that it's just in general, it's like it takes a lot of money just to even get an esports team going or an organization going, and then it takes a lot just to keep it going, and you're burning money before you even make money, right? You can be in the hole, I don't know, like $5 million before you see a profit in the next 2 years, right? I think that's why it's important to have the right owners in that, because I feel like for esports organizations, you have to be in this space because you love video games and you want to see esports as a whole thrive and go farther than where it is right now. And I think for a lot of these organizations, it's not the case anymore. I feel like a lot of big businesses came in and they just wanted to make money. And once they saw there was really no money to be made because all the hype and hysteria kind of went down when all these popular video games died down, like Fortnite, for example. Excuse me. That's why I said Fortnite was kind of the big reason why all these esports teams got so profitable and big so quickly, is because, you know, they were over I forget what the word was. Overvalued because of the popularity, right? All these people were looking at it. All these big businesses were dumping money into them because they wanted to see a return for their money. And that, I think, is one reason why esports organizations as a whole has kind of dropped from the wayside as from a business standpoint, is because the right owners aren't in place, right? The right owners, in my opinion, are like Nadeshot, Moist Critical, Disguised Toast, you know, those guys, because they love video games. They want to see it succeed, and they want to see esports orgs as a whole succeed because they love video games. They grew up playing video games just like I did, and they want to see that that these teams go far and that esports as a whole continues to grow. And that's, I think, one of the main 3 reasons, like I said, is that you have to have the right owners in there for this business to succeed, right? I feel like, you know, they're going to be the 3 pioneers to, you know, get it going to the right direction. They may not see a lot of return for it early on, but, you know, they do this for the love of video games and the love of seeing people compete and play, right? So, you know, these were just like the 3 things I want to talk about was, you know, the profit, cost of teams, the right owners. I think the 3 main reasons why esports as a whole has kind of fallen from a business standpoint, not popularity, like I said. From a popularity standpoint, there's still a lot of popular esports organizations, 100 Thieves, Optic, you know, Cloud9, Team Liquid, still very popular in terms of like fans and everything. But from a business standpoint, a lot of them just have fallen off just because there's no money to be made. It's a money pit. It sucks in a bunch of money. You don't see any returns, and businesses are seeing that now, which is why they cut a lot of teams off. Some of them closed doors. Like Echo Fox, for example. I know they didn't close for that reason. I know there was some stuff with Echo Fox in terms of like owners, like I said, like right owners, right? But yeah, like a lot of esports orgs closed because there was no money, or they cut teams because there was no money, and then they fired a lot of employees because they couldn't afford it and they didn't need it anymore, right? So those are, like I said, my main 3 reasons why I think esports as a whole, from a business standpoint, isn't really doing good. And I think if you get these 3 things right, profit, cost of teams, right owners, you can have a good esports organization and even make money still, right? But I think until esports organizations get these 3 things down, they won't be profitable for a while, and they won't see a lot of returns. And I think it's important that they understand this, and that as a whole, they can start going in the right direction. But yeah, that's what I want to talk about. Let me know what you guys think about the video. If there's some things I can answer questions if you want as well. But I hope you guys have a great day. I'll talk to you guys later. See ya.